again, Mr. Whiskers. Wanted to come on here and give you a little information, answer a few questions that have been posed to me, and that way we can keep in communication with each other. Before we get started, if you like the content, like the show, hit that like button, make a comment, hit the subscription button, and make sure you get that bell too. That way you get notifications of every time we put a show together. You will be notified that we have one. Before we get started even further into the questions, I want to remind you that the show is brought to you by The Beard Struggle. So if you've got whiskers, whether keep them close trimmed to your face or you got longer whiskers, go to thebeardstruggle.com. Use Mr. Whiskers 15 as the discount code. You will receive a 15% discount. That's right. Just my way of saying thank you for participating in the show. So let's go ahead and get into this real quick. I've been asked by several people where I came up with Mr. Whiskers. Here is what happened. On my honeymoon, my wife and I went into Mexico on a cruise ship. And in both ports that we stopped at, as is typical, you will hear the merchants hollering something at you to get your attention. And they typically find something that is individually unique about you. Well, I've got a long red beard. That's pretty different for what we had on the cruise. Most of the guys had short beards, but I have long whiskers. So they were yelling, "Hey, Mr. Whiskers, come in my shop!" So it kind of stuck. And like I said, both ports, that was the thing. Everybody called me. So on the boat, I would hear, "Mr. Whiskers!" I knew it was me. So that's where the name came from. Like I said, I wanted to keep it short, but answer as many questions as I can. Now, another question I had, a couple of guys have been working on getting a batch of wine started, and they've noticed a smell. That is normal. It's just the fermentation process. I like that smell, but then again, I'm weird. What can I say? The larger your batch, the more the smell is going to be involved. Do not throw the wine out. This is a natural process. I've told you before that you're going to get a smell. If you don't like it, put the fermenter out in the garage. I'm working on putting a shop together where I can have a studio set up where the videos are going to be a little more professional. I'm working on putting together editing software on my computer so I can actually piece together portions of a show and make it look a little better. Right now I'm just using the phone, so hey, it works. So right now it's about content, not about quality of production. I'll work on that, I promise. Another question I've been asked quite a few times by people, how did I get started? Well, I started pretty young. I was in my early 20s. Did not have a whole lot of experience with wine, and what experience I did have, I did not like it. It just did not taste good. Well, taste buds change as you get older, and it's just a fact of nature. But a buddy of mine was into wine pretty heavy. I had an uncle at the time who was a wine snob, and he scoffed at me when I told him I wanted to learn how to make wine at home. He told me it was impossible. I had to have special licensing, and I had to be able to make such a huge batch of wine. And he went on to all the reasons why it was not a good idea. But the one thing that struck me was, it's going to taste like garbage. Sure, it'll get you drunk, but it's not going to taste good. Well, at the time, the wines I had tried, I didn't like. So I talked to another buddy of mine who hooked me up with a good friend in Arkansas who owned a winery. It was a big family thing. They actually made wine through Prohibition and did it legally. So that intrigued me a little bit, so I got to talking to him a little bit more. He gave me a very in-depth private tour of the facilities where I saw how things were put together, and then he said, let's go taste some wine. At the end of the normal tour, you get to sample a few different wines and decide what you want to purchase if you decide to. You don't have to make a purchase, they just encourage it. And if you like the wine, why not buy it? And at the time, I bought a couple of wine bottles that I knew I liked because I had a sample of them. And I noticed that the price tag was substantially lower than what I was prepared for. You see, my uncle and my buddy both drank the three-figure wine, and I don't have a three-figure income, so I can't put $200 down and just get one bottle of wine. I discovered that there were wines that I liked. So I got more into it, and I would go and visit him regularly, usually once or twice a month, and just sample different wines than what I did the time before. The more I tried, the more I discovered I like it. So I talked to a buddy of mine who made wine. He's told me it was super easy. Talked to my buddy who owned the winery. He told me it was extremely easy to make. And they both told me some of the pros and cons. There was a shop there in that same town that had winemaking kits that you could put together. So I went in and I got my kit. And everything was just kind of, okay, you want this or do you want this? Do you want this or do you want this? And it was just different grades of the same products. Made my first batch of wine, and it was strawberry wine, by the way. So I went out to a strawberry farm, picked up a bunch of fruit, about 20-25 pounds worth, to make my first 5-gallon batch. The more you make, the more the smell of fermentation is going to take care of filling your house. So it went on the front porch. Let it do its thing, then I brought it inside, and I really enjoyed what I was doing because it was something easy. Put it together and let it do its thing. Went back to the winery and noticed that there were a bunch of trophies in a case, so I asked my buddy about it, and he said that they do an international blind tasting test. That kind of didn't make sense to me, a blind test. Then he explained, judges will try various wines that are not labeled other than just, here's your number, and they taste them, and they pick which one they like the best. He won several awards and trophies for international blind taste tests up against some of the bigger California wines and even Italian wines. Internationally, he won over them. Didn't make sense because his bottles of wine were usually less than $10 at the time. The other guys were substantially higher. Again, that kind of reaffirmed that maybe I made a right decision in making my first batch, so I got pretty excited. My uncle came to visit, so I went and got a little glass and put my wine thief in there and got him a little sample, and he was over there and he's just swirling the glass like the snobs do, and just going on and on about it. It had beautiful legs, and then he tasted it, the bouquet, and he's going all these crazy things I had never heard of before. So then he kind of hit me with another one. He accused me of taking a wine from a different bottle that was produced by a winery and switching it out and saying that I made that wine. So I took him to the fermenter where I had the wine set, and he tasted it again. And he was telling me that this was a beautiful wine. So that kind of stuck with me too. So I got more into it. I bought more fermenters, I bought more jugs, I bought more bottles, I bought more of everything I could buy to make a different wine. And the more I made, the more I liked it. And I would play with the recipe a little bit after, where I would do it a couple times. So that's kind of how I got started on making wine. And then my buddy who owned the winery told me to put a log together on each fermenter or each bottle that I was aging, so that I would know when I started it and all the good stuff that happened when did I taste it the first time. So here's kind of what I start off with. I told you earlier in another show that I had a Post-it note. Well, it just happened to be handy. I had a Post-it note. So I wanted to show you the Post-it note. This right here is a bottle of wine, or a fermenter that I started on June the 1st, watermelon wine. I added the yeast on the 2nd. I racked the wine on the 22nd. And again, if you'll remember from other episode, racking the wine just means I take it and transfer it from one container into a different container. So That's just what they call it, racking. So that way I know when I started and when I can actually sample that batch to know which direction I want to go with it from there. Typically speaking, you can taste your wine, you can sample it between the second and third month. That's usually when you can get a good idea of how the wine is going to taste. The longer it ages, the better it is. But again, you can taste your wine in the second and third month and give a few friends together and sample the wine. I don't normally bottle my wine. Typically, I go ahead and just sample until it's gone. And as friends come over, hey, I got this. It's watermelon wine. Taste it. I got this. It's strawberry wine. Taste it. So that's kind of the short and skinny of it. I encourage comments. I encourage questions. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And go to thebeardstruggle.com. I know you got a friend or you yourself have a beard. So take good care of your face, take good care of the beard, and you're going to have a lot more compliments. You will enjoy your beard a lot more. So take good care of your beard, and who knows, that lady in your life, she'll say, it's soft, I like it. Enjoy. Guys, enjoy making wine. I encourage questions. If I don't know the answer, I will find the answer for you. So we'll see you next time. Have a great glass of wine.